Hi there, it's Polyboy, and today I'm gonna be talking about the way forward now that Trump has lost the election. At least so far, that's what it seems to be, and it seems that Biden is actually now the elect. But I'm gonna be talking about how the conservatives can deal with such news and what they can potentially set in place, to tackle anything that might resemble the New World Order, or Agenda 2021. And it's also going to be a critic on the conservative movement so far, and where they're lacking and when they can make up for why they lost. The problem is one of the core problems of the Conservative Party is the lack of what I like to call empathy, right, to some extent. Okay, while one of the problems of the liberal left, or not really the liberal left, more of the progressive left, is the excessive empathy, or the act, or them acting like as if they are empathetic when they're actually not. They're more like toxic. But the excessive empathy on the left side is the problem, while lack of empathy on the right is the problem. And nothing more can be, no better example exists, than the idea of pick yourself up by your own bootstraps, or the slogan by the person I like a lot, but I don't always agree with him, is Ben Shapiro. That's the idea of facts don't care about your feelings, right? And while that is true, but you will soon discover, like many other things that are true, it doesn't always apply when you're dealing with human beings. And that was one of the reasons why Ben Shapiro made that mistake on TV the other day, whereby he got into his emotions and tried to, insult the dude for being critical of Ben Shapiro in a very irritating way. Now, that being said, the reason I have a problem with that facts don't care about your feelings is not because it's true. It is true. The problem is that it doesn't take into consideration human nature, right? It's almost like to some extent, the idea of Black Lives Matter. That is true. Black lives do matter, but it doesn't take into the consideration, right, the complexity of certain cases and why certain people might have died that didn't deserve to die but put themselves in very, very stupid situations. As well as, the fact that there might be some problem with the police force. Whether it's racial or not, that's not the point. So it can be true that there is a problem with the police force. It can be true that Black lives do matter. But it can also be true that certain situations have nuances. The same way it goes for the right. When people say things like facts don't care about your feelings, what they seem to forget is that that is not a fact when dealing with human beings. At least they don't look at it that way. So the conservatives that go out there saying things like pick yourself for the bootstraps, right? Facts don't care about your feelings. They seem to forget the fact, and this is where they go. They make the mistakes of not being factual. They aren't factual when it comes to factoring the fact that people go with their emotions, temperament of a fact in some conditions, and it's not necessarily bad, right, that they do that. I mean, there's a reason people have emotions. Emotions are very important, but are also very dangerous as they are important. They're much more dangerous than being rational and logical. When you're rational and you're logical, you can break things down, analyze things properly, come up with better solutions, right, without giving into emotions. Look into situations. You're able to control your emotions such a way that you're more productive than destructive. But emotions can be very powerful in the sense that they can help you break new ground, discover new things, look for new options. If you're feeling kind of funny about certain things that is going on, you can use your emotions to go against the grain, to search against what people told you to look for and how they told you to speak. the whole idea about freedom of speech is also the freedom of expression, right? You have to express yourself. Expression is an emotional phenomenon, right? Science cannot really pinpoint the logic behind it, right? There's no science. It's more of an emotional thing of how people try to convey messages that they think in their head. All these things are emotional experience. The fact that you feel sad when Trump loses because you understand that might be a problem for society, that is emotions. So emotions are very important, but also potentially very dangerous. So knowing that, you have to take into consideration certain factors that you might be missing. And one of those factors is the fact that conservatives like to ignore. And that fact is you cannot communicate your intentions or good intentions to people if you're not taking into considerations their emotions, right? If you don't take into considerations the emotions of these people, you cannot preach to them, you cannot communicate with them. And this is where the conservatives were lacking. The liberals, on their own accord, were able to play the long game. They took advantage of the black people's emotions. They took control of black people's emotions. They took control of the emotions of the worldwide world, right? And they literally terraformed these people's beliefs to match theirs, even as stupid as their beliefs are. And if the only reason why people are kind of breaking out of that mindset is because the liberals the progressives, when I mean liberals, I mean progressives, went too far. They started trying to twist humanity's knowledge of gender, race, and the rest of these things, and even sexual orientations. And that's where they went too far, and that's where it became obvious the social engineering that occurred. But the problem is, on the right, we had a very good opportunity to take back culture, to reinvent in scenarios and make sure that we can communicate with people effectively. We can teach them in love the problems in society. Instead, conservatives went ahead and were like very cold to certain people that had certain problems. They became a very large turnoff to certain people that had certain problems. That's also one of the problems that led to Trump being elected and also losing. Because when the liberals started to push away people, okay, it came to a point that people were getting pissed off and like, what the fuck the liberals, right? And they accepted Trump, right? But the problem is that Trump fucked it up in the second term, okay? Trump did not communicate as he should have. And me, along with other people, had this very weird suspicion he might not make it the second term. That is regardless of the fact that there was voter fraud. That's regardless, right? There was voter fraud, but that is not what I'm talking about. People voted for Biden, and you have to understand that people voted for Biden out of spite of Trump. They don't like Biden, they just voted for Biden because they really don't like Trump. And that's because Trump did not make any movement to try to include those other sect of people that were potential voters like the liberals did. Okay, the liberals alienated the conservatives because they understood that they had the media, they had other systems on ground that could twist perception of the world in their favor, and they knew that people voted on temperament, not on logic. And the liberals took advantage of that and brought in the fear of COVID-19. They reeled Trump. Trump got COVID-19 himself and shit like that. And so now they had an opportunity to put themselves in positions of power. And they played this thing to a teeth. They went ahead and sparked up, and amped up the idea of Black Lives Matter. They knew what things to touch because they understood that those who control culture control the nation. The problem is that a lot of conservatives in India are almost sort of psychopathic in the way that they think, or what I would say narcissistic. They're like, no, we shouldn't talk about any other thing apart from people should take the blunt hard facts. They should just believe it and run with it. If you don't like it, fuck you. You don't facts don't care about your feelings. That is not the way you communicate. Because if people communicated that to you, that would be a problem. Imagine if somebody came to you and said, you guys are full of shit. You guys should just accept the fact that Trump lost because he didn't do one or two things properly. You guys will be furious. You guys will be angry because your emotions are already invested in Trump. So you should also understand that when other people have certain perspectives, it's the exact same thing. They are emotionally invested in that candidate. So the least thing you should do is you should pay attention and try to understand that perspective so you can take them away from those candidates into your own camp. A typical example is the idea of the war on drugs. The war on drugs was devastating to a lot of people. It ruined a lot of people's lives. But today, the conservatives that do not even give a fuck about that problem, to them they think, well, people are taking drugs, they need to go to jail. It's such an archaic and bad way of looking at the world. And that is why you will continue to lose until you understand the nuance in life and also understand that you are not the only one that has that dominant in fact. You're not the only ones that have a monopoly on fact. And that goes both ways. For instance, I always say this: black people don't have a monopoly on oppression. A lot of black people like to act like they are oppressed and they're the only ones that are oppressed, and white people are never oppressed and they have white privilege, blah, 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 rubbish, right? I'm talking about the toxic black people, right? While, conservatives also have a similar problem in a different way. They're like, we have the facts. The liberals don't have, we have the fact. No. You have a fact, not the fact. There's many things attached to this big bullshit of a game called politics and called, the social systems that we have today. Things that you ignore don't cease to be fact just because you ignore it, right? For instance, some conservatives, even though they know it's wrong, but because they've been so attacked by liberals, some of them say there's no such thing as racism, that racism is a myth. The same way Candace Owens stupidly went there to say there's no such thing as police brutality, right? The police brutality is a myth. You don't say things like that, because first of all, you don't even believe it. Because just some while ago, a white dude got killed by the police. People were angry with that. Yes, that's why there's something called police brutality. You might not like what the Black Lives Matter idiots are doing, doesn't mean you should ignore facts. And it's a fact that, some people have it tough, and some things that the police do is some bullshit. That's why I keep telling you guys, listen to the liberals, not the progressives. Fuck the progressives, don't give a fuck about that. Listen to the liberals, the classical liberals and the normal liberals and the people, everyday people. Listen to different people of different ethnicities, black people. See where they have a point and see where they're lacking points, and then try to understand what they're trying to say, right? In order to create a system that fixes that problem and, puts a middle finger to the face of the liberals, of the progressive liberals, right? Because they are not going to fix the problem. They just know how to milk it and get people to vote for them. They're not going to fix the problem. What you should do is you should take advantage of the fact that the liberals are not going to fix the problem to fix the problem. When we have done that, you can open the door to allow people to vote for you in the elections. But in fact, that is not even, that visible today, because there's a lot of things happening. For instance, you have to prepare against the Great Reset. Now, there's another problem I see a lot of, conservatives doing. They are trying to protest as if that's going to solve the problem. You have to understand the demons that run the world. There's a lot of psychopaths around the world. These people are not liberal, they're not conservative, they're not capitalist. They are psychopathic pieces of shit. They're devils, right? And they don't care about whether you protest. They're prepared for that. They've had hundreds of years to prepare for that. They can just release a more powerful virus, and you will be forced to go back home and not to protest. If not, you will die. Believe it or not, many of you will fold. Right? And that's because you're not focusing on the main thing. Now, I will tell you how you can deal with that problem later in the future. Right now, my time is running too short and I want to keep it within 15 minutes. So what I will say is this. Thank you for listening to me. I will be talking about other topics next time. And if you like this song you're listening to on this video, please download it from Hyper-V, Urban. That is HYPER, then V, then Urban, URBAN, right? And you can see the link in the description below. If you like the songs, please help support me, and I'll be coming with more content later. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye.